Most people associate financial freedom with having a lot of money. And you must be thinking to yourself right now, well, don't you need a lot of money to be financially free? Well, you don't, and the numbers don't lie. I've been obsessing about this topic for several years now, and I finally distilled financial freedom into the only 2 principles you need to know. So here's what you can expect from this video. We'll look at principle number 1, which I learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad, which explains why you don't need to get rich. You don't need a lot of money. Principle number 2 would show us how the same income can create freedom. So if you're serious about building something that can change your finances, I promise this will be worth your time. I'm assuming that most people will argue that rich people are financially free because they're rich. Once you're rich, financial freedom pretty much follows. But now that I understand the key to financial freedom, I would say that this argument is false. It's actually the other way around. The rich were free before they were rich. Freedom always comes before riches. Always. And this only makes sense when you understand principle number 1. When the average person talks about financial freedom, what they actually mean is having a different source of income that can cover their bills and replace their jobs. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we are fantasizing about quitting our day job and having more time. We're not talking about millions in the bank, but our bills covered. And principle number 1 supports this exactly. According to Robert Kiyosaki, financial freedom has nothing to do with how much money you have in the bank. In theory, you could have no cash and be financially free. You can be wealthy without being rich. And it all comes down to what Kiyosaki teaches in Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that is his definition of wealth. Wealth is a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward without generating labor-related income. Or in other words, if I stopped working today, how long could I survive relying on my assets only? Wealth measures how much money your assets are making and therefore your financial survivability. Wealth doesn't look at net worth, but cash flow. And that's where everything changes. You may be dissatisfied with your current income. You may even consider yourself broke, but you are making a living. You're not naked, you're not hungry, you're not homeless. Probably got a smartphone, that's how you're watching this. You may be just getting by, but you're doing it, you're alive. And so if your monthly expenses are $2,000, you're only $2,000 away from financial freedom, from your bills being covered. Let that sink in. You don't need to run or own a massive corporation to generate $2,000 a month. If you take the time to buy or build an asset that generates that kind of money, you'll be financially free. I'm not saying that that's super easy. There's a lot to learn to get there. But now you know what to aim for. It's not a matter of savings, but cash flow. Not what's sitting in the bank, but what's coming in every month. That's why you don't need to have a lot of money. You only need to have your expenses covered. That's the only meaning of financial freedom. And covering your expenses is the key. It's simple, but not easy. There are no shortcuts to bringing value to the market, which is how you get paid. So now that we understand principle number 1, here are a couple of fair questions to ask. To a person working full-time who is also trying to be a helpful spouse and an engaged parent, there's no more than 30 to 90 minutes left in a day to generate another source of income. You could sacrifice sleep for a short period of time, but it's not a sustainable or healthy way to live. So how do you acquire assets without capital? How do you generate an equivalent of full-time income with an hour a day? That's what principle 2 is for, and it is a wild one. Getting paid by the hour will not work. Doing overtime will not work. It never worked and never will. Or as Naval Ravikant wrote, you're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity, a piece of a business, to gain your financial freedom. Even if your goal isn't getting rich, but just to make a decent living, the principle stands. To free up your time, you must do something that unlinks labor and income. You must make intelligent investment of your time in the only thing that can generate a full-time income with 60 minutes a day. And that's leverage. The definition of leverage is the use of tools to multiply the results or the outcome of an action. Now here is the most literal example in the world of leverage. A crane. Let's say that you're back from the shop with a bag full of groceries that weighs 5 kilograms. It requires you to apply a force equivalent to 5 kilograms to lift that bag. It would be kind of freaky though if you applied the same amount of force and lifted 5 tons in the air, right? And that's exactly the case with a crane. The crane's operator sits up high, pulls a metal stick, And with that one arm's pull, insane amount of weight is carried into the air. Now, I don't know the physics behind this insanity, but the crane is a tool that allows men to do the heavy lifting. The same action, 1,000 times the result. And the internet is that kind of a tool. Instead of having this conversation we're having right now 1,000 times, I could make a video, put it up on YouTube, and get 1,000 views. The same interaction, 1,000 times the outcome. The video is the one arm's pull that generates 1,000x the results of simply having this conversation in person with someone. That kind of leverage allows me and normal people to get closer to their goal without having to invest more time. Forget rich versus poor, white collar versus blue. It's now leveraged versus unleveraged. To most people starting out without money or capital, building leverage would be the smartest move. Let's say that my tool of choice is the internet and my platform of choice is YouTube. I'm going to spend the next 12 months creating the highest quality content I possibly can with the hope of getting the channel monetized. Let's say that by the end of that year, the channel is monetized and I'm starting to make some money from ad revenue. Now I have an asset that is making money independently from me. People can watch my videos while I'm asleep, while I'm at work. I have an asset that is generating money without me having to be there. I've unlinked my income and my time. Now, if I decide to keep going and get better at the craft, one day this asset could cover all of my expenses and set me free. And you know about many content creators who are doing this full time. Maybe this is one of the things that you wish to do one day. Regardless of the tool you choose to build leverage with, your goal is to own something that makes money without your direct labor and time. And that is the magic of finding a position of leverage in life. To someone who has no savings or capital, building leverage will be life-changing. We're living in a time that this powerful tool is in our pockets all day long, and we don't need anyone's permission to start building. Cash flow through leverage is the only way to freedom. And we're talking about amounts of money that aren't beyond any of us. We only need our expenses covered. Now, in case this was all new to you and you're educating yourself on the topic, here's a quick recap. Freedom truly means having our expenses covered. That's it. And that is why freedom always comes before riches, because you don't need millions to sustain yourself. The lower your expenses are, the closer you are to financial freedom. You're going to need less money. The only way to divorce labor and income is through leverage. And leverage requires that you educate yourself on the topic and build patiently. Stop trying to get rich. Work on earning your time back. Build wealth that covers your expenses, that is cash flow, not money just sitting in the bank. I hope that I kept it practical, to the point, and simple enough for anyone to understand, especially if you're just trying to educate yourself on the topic and this is a new territory. I think you're flipping awesome for taking the time to educate yourself. This is not common, and you're already in a position to do so much better than you are already doing, and to do better than most people. In the future, there'll be somewhere here on the screen the video I think it's most suitable to watch next. But in the meantime, build patiently and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.